Wisdom cannot reveal itself. Art cannot manifest. Strength cannot fight. Wealth becomes useless. And intelligence cannot be applied. Radio Life presents the Health Wave. Maximum information for making wise health and lifestyle decisions.
We're welcoming everyone who is listening to us, whether it's Atlanta, any town in USA, any country, any place that is with us right now and who will hear us later in the recording. This is 6 o'clock in the evening Eastern Time. Perfect moment to tune in into the Health Wave. As always, Victoria Barayev is with you. I'm the author and the presenter of the show, and I'm so happy to be with you again. Tonight we'll spend 2 hours of fun and educational time together, like never before. This is going to be about you and about your health. Yes, that's right. It's all about you. It's all about your well-being and your happiness. Before we begin our show, I'd like to announce our special raffle that has become our tradition in the program. We are raffling off a 30-minute consultation with a permanent hair removal with smooth system. It's a gift certificate that looks like this, and it's going to go out to the winner of the program today. To win this gift certificate, all you need to do is to write a comment and to stay with us during the broadcast the entire hour. You have to write a comment in the comment section of the broadcast on Radio Live page, to say something nice to us, to greet us, to ask a question. Just try to do it once, unless you have a special question to the host or to the guest of the show. And at the end of the program, we will raffle off this gift certificate. Free consultation with a 30-minute of permanent hair removal with smooth system. We have 2 locations where you can redeem this gift certificate. One is in Tucker, Atlanta. The other one is in Brooklyn, New York. And here you go. Can you imagine that one day you wake up and one of your extremities is not working? I mean, you can feel it. You can feel your leg, or you can feel your arm, or even worse, you go blind. You can see on one eye or the other eye. You feel that something weird and wrong is going on with you. It happens to some people. What do? You are scared. You go to the doctor. You get tested. You go through all kinds of diagnosis, testings, and consultations to be told you have an incurable disease. The name of this disease is multiple sclerosis. We know it as MS, 2 letters, scary letters that lead you to an unknown future. This is the most widespread neurological condition of young adults between the ages of 20 and 50 that you can find in the world, basically around the world. The disease that affects people in different ways, some more severely, some less severely. But what unites all these people is the unknown future of inescapable disease with an incurable diagnosis. Scary. And those people who are familiar with this, and family members of these people, they are looking for every opportunity to hear words of encouragement, to hear a success story, to get some information that will lead them to hope, that's going to bring them hope for the future, not for a future where they will be bound with a wheelchair, but they want to hear about bright future. And that's why we decided to bring here a very special person, someone who is a true warrior. The lady who is sitting right next to me, Jackie Wong, an entrepreneur and realtor. Jackie has an amazing story. She's a true warrior who once was diagnosed with this horrifying, terrible disease, multiple sclerosis, was able to win it. And I'm so proud to have her here tonight, and she will present her story. Good evening, Jackie. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to have your story here on the show.
Thank you, Victoria. The pleasure is mine. I am actually a little nervous. I've never shared my story really with such a large audience, and forgive me, I'm a little nervous, but I appreciate that you selected me to share my testimony, and I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Especially that you've never shared it before. It's going to be, we will celebrate it.
Yes.
We're celebrating your successful recovery today, here, right now.
Thank you.
And all the people who are watching and listening are doing it with you and with me together.
That's great.
Jackie just landed here in Atlanta a few hours ago.
Yes.
She came from New York.
Yes.
Is this your first time in Atlanta?
It is, and I'm loving it.
Already?
I'm going to check out some real estate tomorrow.
That's great. So you came to Atlanta to share your story.
I did.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. How old were you when you were first diagnosed?
I was 36 years old.
Wow, 36 years old.
Actually, I was 36 in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 51.
So it's about 12 years ago.
12 years
You
ago.
were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
I was diagnosed with MS. Yes.
So doctors tend to categorize all kinds of diseases so they can understand better how to treat it, right?
Yes.
So that's the same thing with multiple sclerosis. They put it in roughly two categories. One was relapse remission, and the other one is progressive.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that you have relapses and then you come out of it, and the other one where you skip all the stages and you just go to the progressive, the worst kind.
Yeah.
Which one were you?
I believe mine was relapse remission, but it progressed after twice relapsing. The third time, it progressed really fast to the point that I was pretty much paralyzed from the waist down, blind in my left eye.
So it happened very quickly.
It happened in 1 year. It progressed to the point that I was debilitated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to begin first by explaining a little bit what multiple sclerosis is. Medically, it's considered an incurable disease, which has an autoimmune nature. When we hear things like autoimmune disorder, we often feel that this is something mysterious. Autoimmunity is when your body makes antibodies, basically attacks their own organs and tissues, and why the body does it when it's such a smart mechanism, nobody knows. It can happen anywhere in the body. It can be in a thyroid gland, it can be people have rheumatoid arthritis, people have all kinds of autoimmune conditions, they're categorized into different kinds, although they all have the same nature, pretty much the same thing. So multiple sclerosis has to deal with the fatty substance that covers our nerves of our brain and spinal cord. And that fatty substance is called myelin. When that gets attacked, that's when we actually lose the ability to transform information from the brain to the other parts of the body. That's when we are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. That's when we have things malfunctioning in the body. One leg goes off, one arm goes off. You don't feel parts of your body, right? So you can go blind, you can feel pins and needles in your body. Sometimes you get these symptoms and you ignore them, you don't hear them until it hits you really, really bad. You can come out of it, you can get into relapse again. And where it's going to shoot, you never know. And you never know what's going to be your future, because the disease can progress very rapidly. So it's like a multi-faced disease with lots of different angles, faces, and manifestations, I would say. So let's hear your story. What happened to you? First of all, let me ask you this. What was happening in your life prior to the diagnosis? Where were you in your life at that point?
Prior to the diagnosis, I have 4 daughters. My last 3 daughters were born between 1999 and 2002. So I was very busy during that period having babies and working. I was business owner, realtor, broker owner of my own firm, and I was literally having my children and going right back to work. So I wasn't really taking care of my body per se. I was kind of a workaholic. But I was feeling fine. Symptoms weren't there then. In 2002, after my fourth daughter was born, I started to kind of become very undisciplined with my health. I was basically eating unhealthy. I was working hard, playing hard. I was just, being a mom and trying to juggle everything, and things caught up with me. In 2005, entering into 2006, I started to experience, I was doing well. I was doing financially well, everything, was happy, in a good marriage, and everything seemed okay. I didn't realize that, having all the children I was having, and working as hard as I was working, and not taking care of my health. For example, I was eating unhealthy. I was just working too much. Everything I was doing was in excess. Right. Yeah. So not allowing my body, I guess, the time to heal properly after having children. Whatever the case was, it led me, in 2005 to 2006, I started to experience tingly pins and needles in my legs, and I didn't give it any thought. I just continued with my routine. During this time, however, I was having there were some moments with my marriage that were not good. I was going into kind of a postpartum. I'm not sure. Mentally, I was a little depressed, although I was doing so well. On the surface, everything seemed okay. It seemed like I had it together. Not realizing that on the inside, I was holding on. I was internalizing so much because I felt like I couldn't keep it together for some reason. As successful as I looked on the outside, in the inside, I don't know why, but I was depressed and pain. So many things going on. And
gathering all these negative aspects.
Internalizing so much and just putting up a facade just to show up and produce and do,
without probably even realizing that.
Without realizing it. And thinking my marriage was okay. I think that was one of the first things that affected my, my health. That started to affect my my way of thinking, just when my marriage was not in a good place. Let's just say that. And in 2006, I was at the time putting on fake eyelashes. I don't forget this because I don't do that anymore, but at the time I was putting on fake eyelashes, and I started to feel my left eye, I felt like I had gotten glue in my eye. So it was to the point that I was I couldn't see out of the left eye. So I went to a doctor. I made an appointment. I went to get to see an eye doctor. When I got to the eye doctor, she decided to give me a field test. So I took a field test. I was called into her office after she read the results, and she asked me one question. She asked me if anyone in my family suffered from MS. I didn't even know what MS was, to be honest. I was like, what's that? And she said, well, multiple sclerosis. I said, I don't know what that is. Can you explain to me? She went into the nervous system shutting down and all the things you mentioned earlier. I still didn't understand. I was like, okay, but to me, she wasn't giving me a diagnosis. She was just basically asking me, if there was a hereditary, like they ask you, does anyone in your family suffer from cancer, diabetes, whatever. But I said no. So when I walked out to the reception area, I noticed how the workers were like very quiet. It felt really weird, and they were looking at me really sad. and I didn't understand what was going on, and they felt bad for me. And it didn't register. So I left. She gave me she gave me a card to a neurologist. I left there. That was the first time I was made aware, MS. I went about my business. I didn't bother to follow up with a neurologist.
Wow.
I did not, because to me, I wasn't feeling the symptoms of anything other than I thought I had glue in my eye,
If you had known what MS was, you probably you'd probably go to a neurologist.
Probably. I just didn't believe that I didn't know what to believe, because I didn't wrap my head around what MS was until shortly thereafter I started to experience more tingly and numbness at this time. It started to progress into some numbness. I'm a realtor, so I host a lot of open houses, and I remember the first time that I ever fell while I was showing buyers. I was walking buyers through a house, and it was an open house, and I was walking down 2 steps into a living room, and I went down, and I couldn't get up. And I could not get up, and my legs were just not cooperating.
Very scary.
And I had a couple of my team members help me up, and I was so afraid. And I remember it was an open house, and I served wine and hors d'oeuvres, and I just said to my assistant, I said, get me a glass of wine. I just need something, because I don't know what's happening. And I got so nervous, but not realizing that it was a symptom from MS. So,
because you didn't know what MS was.
I didn't know. I didn't know. I never followed up with anything after that first potential diagnosis, right? So, long story short, I wound up. It wound up getting worse. So after that open house, I remember 2 weeks later, I was driving my car. At the time, I was driving an Escalade, a big truck, because I had all these children. I needed that, or a school bus. I always used to joke about that. But I'm driving my truck, and I'm on a highway. My legs went. I could not feel from the waist down, and now I'm doing like 65. I'm on the highway, and there's no shoulder, and I'm like freaking out. I can't feel my legs. What do I do? I'm praying. I'm doing everything, and I'm just trying to calm myself down. I don't know how, well, I know how, but I managed to pull my seat all the way up, and by looking at, keeping my head above the gear, just stopping the car, and an exit came up with my hands. And that was my first experience like that. You would think I would stop driving, I would see a doctor. No. I wasn't convinced that I was sick.
That's what usually happens to people when they get this type of diagnosis. Not specifically MS, but really bad diagnosis. They usually ignore the symptoms. They ignore what the doctor tells them because they're too busy with their lives.
Yes.
Basically detached with their own body.
And not to mention, I really didn't believe doctors, because I just wasn't raised that way to believe doctors. I was raised to, you're fine. Doctors don't know what they're talking about, and
you're a strong person.
Yeah. So it wasn't registering. Shortly thereafter, I was falling so often that I wound up going to the hospital. I went into the emergency room, actually. Got into the emergency room. They admitted me right away. They asked me about MS. I said, I've heard that word before, but I really don't know what it is. So I guess you're going to tell me what it is. They said, well, we're going to do some tests. And I said, here we go. Here is the typical doctor who wants to do some tests. I said, okay. I remember the first time I was admitted to the hospital. There were 3 times. But the first time went MRI. They come to me, the neurologist was present. They put the MRI to the light, on the film to the light, and I looked and I said, what's that? And they said, that's a picture of your brain. I said, what's all the stuff on it? And they're like, well, those are lesions.
Lots of light.
Lots of lights. Lesions. My brain was pretty much covered in lesions, and I still didn't know what it was. I didn't want to know. It was frightening because, I wasn't open to wanting to know. I was really, at that point, I became afraid. I'm not
Because
gonna,
this would interfere with your life, busy life.
Well, yeah, and I had stuff to do. So I was discharged from the hospital. I was told to follow up with a neurologist. I never did. I continued with my busy life. I was feeling better. I was drinking a little more wine. I was feeling better. I was kind of numbing my symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for some reason, the alcohol had me thinking that, oh, you feel fine. That's all in your head. But not realizing that the alcohol was actually causing more symptoms. I was not aware of any of this, so this was a journey that I was about to go on, and that's what wound up happening. So I relapsed shortly thereafter. All of the 3 relapses happened within 1 year. So in 2006, entering 2007, I relapsed 3 times. The 3rd time,
And every time you ended up in the hospital.
in the hospital. The 3rd and final time was the almost ending of 2006. And at this point, my marriage was almost done. I was in a really dark place because now I'm like paralyzed. I'm back in the hospital. This time they're telling me there's, a poor chance that you may walk again. They're telling me all these things. They're just running all these tests, and one day I remember having 2 spinal taps. They didn't get it right the first time, and it was such, for me, torture because I didn't know what was going on. They were pumping me with steroids because the steroids were helping me get my vision back, and they did that the first 2 times.
Can I stop you for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Someone may be watching right now and thinking, can I really believe that? That this beautiful lady is sitting here and telling us that she was paralyzed and she was blind. Is that really true? Is it even possible to come back to life again after being like that? So please comment.
Well, absolutely.
Some people can be skeptical.
I understand. I don't expect for, my story is such a miracle that even doctors, when I went back to them after, and I don't want to get ahead of it, because the truth of the matter is that I was in denial for such a long time. But although I was in denial for a long time, I was determined to find out how my body shut down. That was the 3rd time and the final time. So what happened was I was in the hospital and the doctors were telling me now, there's very little hope that you're going to walk. My marriage is falling apart. I'm really lost. I'm in this dark place. I can't see through my eye. I felt for the first time in my life like this is happening. This is happening. I can't continue to ignore this. I have to make a decision to figure this out. And the first thing that entered my heart, I just had a desire to read the Bible. For me, I don't know why. I had such a great desire to read the Bible, but I couldn't read the Bible because I couldn't.
Because you were blind.
I was blind through the left eye. My mother-in-law, who's been such a rock to me, on that, during that time, my mother-in-law is Chinese. She was heavy into reflexology. I remember the 3rd time I was in the hospital, she came in and she says, "You're going to be okay." And I said, "I am?" She goes, "You're going to be okay." She goes, "We're going to start." She started massaging my feet. And I remember I wasn't feeling anything. For the first week, she would come every day. I had asked her, I said to her, I desired to read the Bible. She bought me the Bible in CDs and a Walkman at that time. And I was listening to the CDs and falling asleep to it. And something happened that I felt such a determination to walk out of that hospital, but more importantly, to heal. I made a decision to find out, how did I get sick? So I was there for almost 30 days. During that time, I was listening to the Bible and CDs. I asked the nurse to put the pad on the floor because I would refuse to do 2 things. I refused to get in a wheelchair to go transported to the bathroom. I refused for a nurse to give me a bedpan. I refused to do those things because I was determined to walk out of there. And I knew that if I figured out how I got sick, that I could connect these dots. So because I went blind at first, my mother-in-law bought me a book, Miracle Food Cures from the Bible. That's the name of the book. Miracle Food Cures from the Bible led me onto this journey of holistic health. It led me onto a path of discovery where I figured out about my optic nerve, my hypothalamus, how it's all connected. And it led me right here to my digestive tract.
Exactly.
It led me there. And I was already aware that because the book I was reading, the Miracle Food Cures, because now I can't see through the side, so now I'm covering the side, but I'm reading, and I'm trying to give the side, exercise, but I managed to read part of that book to the point where I discovered in the book that cabbage was one thing that had so many healing benefits because of the K vitamin K. And all I saw was brain, vitamin K, cabbage. So I figured, okay, so I'm going to juice cabbage. And I wound up, that mat that was on the floor. Every night for 2.5 weeks, I would wait till the lights go out, and I shared the room with someone else. And my attitude was one of joy, because at that point I had made a decision to heal and to just change my way of thinking.
And that's where it starts.
Yeah.
You have to make that decision.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the only way I was able to get past the fear, because the fear had me so gripped that it was making me drink. It was making me fear even more when I was thinking that the alcohol was helping, and it wasn't, because the sugar in the alcohol was really debilitating me even more.
Sure.
But I learned so much. I kind of feel like I had to go through that experience to really learn about my own body. You see, my body, I understand my body now. I understand when something is wrong, and specifically where I need to make adjustments, because I've learned how to listen to my body.
Become more intuitive.
Right. So the reflexology was one thing that definitely helped me. So I was jumping off the bed, like just throwing myself onto the ground, and with my shoulders, my arms, I was dragging myself to the bathroom.
Wow, such a workout.
Yeah, you see.
Strong muscles.
It allowed me to keep my dignity, not to get into a wheelchair. Not that people that are in wheelchairs do not have dignity. For me, it wasn't a choice. I wasn't about to give up. I had too much to live for. In that time, while all of that was happening, my attitude changed, and I developed a attitude of non-negotiable. I have to walk out of here. That was my goal. I have to walk out of here. I don't care how.
On your own feet.
On my own feet. In that time, before the 30 days, my husband and I reconnected. In that darkness, our marriage was restored. One eye reconnected with both his eyes, and our marriage was
together.
restored. That was the beginning. Maybe a week later, he helped me walk out of there, but no wheelchair. And I did walk out. Went to my neurologist's office. She strongly recommended that I go on to medication. She wanted to prescribe. It was called beta interferon. That one. My family and I had made a decision that I would not be taking the medication.
Medications are horrible. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but that particular one costs $30,000 a year, and the benefits of it are very questionable.
Well, I haven't met anyone since I've healed from MS, and I've met people that are on it, through conversations, and I don't really say, oh, I had MS, and I don't want to tell someone with MS that, because it wasn't, I guess, the right timing.
Right.
But I understood what they were taking as a medication. I remember feeling
that's what medicine offers to
Yeah.
people. There's no other therapy.
Exactly. So and that was the only option they were giving me was you're going to have a nurse come over and inject you every other day for the rest of your life. That was kind of the option they were giving me. At that point I was like, well, my family and I decided I'm not going to be taking this medication. So they said, well, you're on your own, kind of, if anything changes, she says, here's a prescription for a wheelchair.
Wow. What's scary to take on this responsibility,
Yeah.
to refuse from medication
Yeah.
and do something else, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It takes guts.
It takes guts. I went home. I never forget. The first thing I did was go to the health food store. I bought everything organic. I cut out all the animal products, all the meats. But I wasn't really even eating food. I was just juicing. I was juicing cabbage 3 times a day. And if you've ever juiced cabbage, it smells really bad.
Yes, I
That's
know.
what my home smelled like most of the time, because that's all I was doing. My family was so supportive, always. And I was doing that 3 times a day. And then I got so thin that I looked sick, and I was really healthy. So 2 years after I left, this was in 2008, 2007 going to 2008, I paid $1,000 to one of my clients who worked at a diagnostic place for an MRI. And I asked her to, I wanted it for myself because I wanted to see what was,
in your brain.
The lesions had shrunk. There were no, and there were no lesions.
It's amazing.
So aside from that, I also went on this path of energy treatments. At the time, I was getting a treatment called SCIO, S-C-I-O. SCIO, these are energy treatments where it's pretty much you wear a harness on your head, your wrists, and your ankles, and you sit like this, and a machine reads your energy levels and is able to send frequencies into areas that have poor circulation, and it's been known, and we are energy beings, so everything is energy. And it opened up this whole world to me. So I started doing energy treatments. I changed my diet. That was a big one, because when I connected the dots, it all led to my digestive tract. The cabbage allowed for me to detox. I did colonics. I did anything that would rid my digestive tract of any toxins. I managed to heal from the lesions because they shrunk. I remember the day for a split second, I got vision in this eye. I got my vision back 85%. I can see you.
And I bet that's what gave you hope to fight even more.
The day that for a split second, I got to see. I said, oh my God, I know I just saw the wall. And that built my belief. And it led me onto this amazing path of healing and recovery to really fix what was wrong within myself. Because our bodies we own our bodies. Our organs, in my opinion, are meant to recalibrate, to renew, to and it's all I did different was make a decision to address the root of the problem, because the symptoms from MS, it could be a mask symptom, like for me with the eye, I thought it was glue. It wasn't glue, and it started to deteriorate until I was completely blind on my left eye. So there's no explanation to how did she do it. I didn't do anything different other than I made a decision to listen to my body. I made a decision not to fear anymore. And I made a decision to heal based on what I felt God was speaking to me. And He carried me. I felt His healing on my body. I received it. I had to overcome so much because there was a lot of fear inside of me. There was a lot of baggage that I had that I carried with me for so many years since I was a kid. I didn't even realize these things. I didn't realize that everywhere I went, I had all this stuff carrying. I would walk into a room and I would carry all my baggage with me, not realizing that there's only so much the body can take before it tells you you need to stop. And if you don't listen to it, it will make you listen to it. And that's what happened to me.
So it brought you down to the point from where you couldn't even fall anywhere else.
No, I had to get there
To
to
realize,
look up.
to look up.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience, one that scared me, but challenged me to the point that I remember my neurologist, she goes, here's a prescription for a wheelchair, she's giving me this paper, and I said to her, no, I want the address to Christian Louis Vuitton because that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to buy the highest pair of heels, okay? and I just want to show you.
That's the
I'm
attitude
always
of the warrior.
I'm always in heels. I'm always working on myself. More importantly, recognizing that I need to grow on a daily basis. I have to love myself more than anybody else can love me. I have to be honest with myself and recognize my own junk and not justify it and blame other people. I mean, it's been such a huge, long road that I work on myself every day, and I just...
Unfortunately, we start thinking about these things only when we get to this lowest point of our lives. Oftentimes, when we get sick, really, truly sick, that's when we start thinking about what have I done to myself.
Exactly.
How long did it take you from the day of your diagnosis to the day of your complete recovery?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. I've never fallen again. I've never gotten... Well, when I was, the paralysis would kick in, I was starting to suffer from panic attacks. The panic attack led me to heart palpitations that led me to feel like I was having a heart attack. It was just such a spiral effect, like a domino effect, like one thing triggered another, and now I'm on my way on a gurney to the hospital because I'm having a heart attack. No, I'm paralyzed. No, I'm blind. No, it's so many things.
Right.
And I just...
That's what multiple sclerosis does to people.
Yeah.
Manifests in all kinds of different ways.
Yeah.
And by the way, do you know that every week 200 people in the United States are diagnosed with this disease?
Are they? Yeah.
1 million people a year,
Wow.
suffer with this condition. It's horrible.
It is.
Let's review again for those people who'd like to know more about what you did exactly.
Sure.
So you did get, from what I heard, you did get a lot of reflexology from your mother-in-law.
Reflexology, I gotta tell you, it was one of the main things that allowed for me. Remember, I was paralyzed. I felt nothing. She came every day and she worked on my pressure points, on my feet, every day, on my hands, because the hands are a map to the body. When you can't do the feet, you do the hands. So I learned how to heal a headache just to putting pressure on my fingertips. I've learned how to work my digestive tract just to apply, this is a body of your, a map of your body. So yeah, reflexology, highly recommended. Acupuncture was another thing that I did. It allowed for my blood to circulate even greater. Energy treatments, anything that will allow for you to reignite those nerves, because no one has the last word but God, I believe. I also believe that, our bodies, because they're so unique to us, not necessarily what worked for me may work for someone else, but I promise you, if you start to pay attention a little closer and really identify what the root of the problem is, because for me it was not the blindness, that was something that was triggered from my health.
So you learned, you got to the real to the core of this disease, because multiple sclerosis, just like any other autoimmune disorder, starts in the digestive tract.
I never knew that.
You never knew that. And what's so interesting, I've been listening to you for the last, more than half hour right now. Such a fascinating, interesting recovery story. And I'm thinking to myself, you did not even know about the major research about multiple sclerosis. Who started the treatment? Who was successful in treating people with it? This was, I have to mention this, Dr. Roy Swank. His name was Dr. Roy Swank, who observed people during the Second World War. When Nazis came and they took the livestock from people. People didn't have access to meat, to dairy. They ate potatoes, corn, very, very simple foods. And that's when things like heart disease, diabetes, multiple sclerosis all went down. People got healthier. So he observed, and he decided to use this in treatment of multiple sclerosis after the Second World War. So what he did, he used a low-fat diet to treat his patients. Basically, his belief was, which he was very successful and very famous, by the way, he was a pioneer in multiple sclerosis treatment. So what he was saying is that everything starts with a fatty diet. So fat paralyzes our circulation, blood circulation. And then we have a lot less oxygen in the blood. Just from one single meal, the blood supply gets less oxygen by 20%. So that actually damages the blood-brain barrier, the barrier between the blood and the brain. So now the nervous system, the central nervous system, is exposed. Anything can get into there. And this is how, when we eat wrong things, I'm just saying very primitively right now, and then excess proteins and viruses and bacteria get into the blood from the digestive tract, right?
Yes.
Our body starts making antibodies to attack those foreign substances, to attack those viruses, to attack those bacteria, and then excess proteins and dairy that seeps into the bloodstream. And then what your body does, it goes further. It goes and finds all these similar looking proteins and starts attacking them. For example, and this example is brought by Dr. McDougall, very well known, and you did not even know about all these names.
Well, I will research now. It's fascinating.
Please do. So let's say a child drinks a glass of milk, and the child has this condition, leaky gut, where things seep through.
Leaky gut syndrome.
Leaky gut syndrome.
I know about that one.
Because this is
I
where it
suffered
starts.
from that too, yeah.
Exactly. This is how it starts. So a child drinks milk. Milk seeps into the bloodstream, right? And then, your body makes antibodies to catch them and kill them. So basically killing this excess casein, let's say casein molecules, right? The body continues and sends these antibodies to search for more looking similarly proteins. This is called the mechanism called molecular mimicry, right? Finding similar looking proteins. And then it goes into the pancreas and finds very much alike looking proteins. In pancreas, they're called beta cells. It attaches to them and kills them. And those beta cells are exactly the cells that make insulin in the body. And this is how children get diabetes type 1. It's another autoimmune disease. So every time someone has an autoimmune disorder, he has a much greater chance of getting multiple sclerosis. And when this blood and brain barrier broken, this is how this, antibodies get into the nervous system and start attacking myelin, this fatty, cover of our nervous fibers.
Yes.
So this is how multiple sclerosis happens.
My eyes are open now to a lot more, personally, me going through it. I was not focused on any of that. I was focused on my body because I was hearing so many opinions, but I wasn't listening. I was just focused on how did I get sick and so
now please research, and those of you who suffer with multiple sclerosis or know someone who does, or you are a family member of someone who suffers with it, please go and research. Dr. McDougall, who conducted a huge multiple sclerosis study, Dr. Roy Swank, the pioneer of multiple sclerosis treatment, and you'll find out so much information, fascinating things, and you'll remember Jackie's story. You know, she was incredible. I mean, applaud you for showing so much courage and, you know, being a true warrior for yourself, for all these other people who you just had a chance to share your story with for the first time, and I didn't even know that. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you for having me. I
really appreciate that.
I'm really grateful.
I think our time is almost up, and I wanted you to say a couple of words of wisdom to anyone who is who just heard your story.
Words of wisdom. All I can say is love yourself, because if you don't, no one else can love you the way you can. Most important, forgive often. There's no end diagnosis, only the one that you choose to accept. I really believe that our bodies are designed to heal if we follow a proper diet, if we really pay attention to what we need to eliminate and put in place of. I laugh a lot more than I used to. I take time to be present. I work on myself every day to grow, to be a better person. I don't hold on to bitterness anymore. I do not attend every argument I'm invited to. I think that, you know, it's really about forgiveness and letting go and letting God come in and really applying health into your daily regimen. That's really
being present.
Being present is the most important. I literally stop and feel the wind, and I look at the trees, and I am grateful. Above all, I am grateful.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think we now can draw, I hope we have some comments. We can draw our special prize, and I will have, you know, the privilege to let Jackie pull out a number and identify that winner.
Okay, let's see.
Number 9.
Number 9. Lucky
There's
number 9.
There's no number 9. Okay, so let's pull out another one.
Okay. Number 5.
Number 5. So who was our number 5?
Number 5.
Alla Kozlova.
Alla Kozlova. Alla is our regular listener, which I really appreciate you for doing that. You deserve to be the winner. Congratulations. You won a consultation, 30-minute consultation of and a treatment of permanent hair removal with smooth system, which we will talk about in our next segment. Please stay with us. There is 2 locations in Atlanta and in New York that you can redeem this gift certificate. We will contact you after the show and let you know how to do that. Congratulations, Allah.
Congratulations, Allah.
Thank you so much for listening to us. And I just wanted to add to Jackie's words. She said it so perfectly. She was so well spoken, shared our her story with us. Just wanted to add, please don't give up. The impossible is always possible. Believe in it and keep going. Stay on the wave of health and don't go anywhere. By the way, we're having a second hour of talking more about health issues and health solutions. Right now, we will let you listen to a nice song, and we'll be back to you in 10 minutes. Don't go.
An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Radio Life welcomes you to the Health Wave, where you can learn with us, meet interesting people,